Today, we would like to share a bit with you about the science of reading. Our intent is that this video presentation be more than a mere sit and get. To accomplish this, there will be times during the video when you will be asked to pause the video so that you can engage in discussions. Our goals for today are to help us understand that explicit instruction actually changes the physical structure of the brain, and incorporating multisensory activities into our instruction, no matter the content, provides multiple ways for the students to engage with the content and multiple ways for the brain to make sense of the content. To reinforce this idea, I present you with this quote: "Reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body." That is, we know that to strengthen our muscles, we must exercise our bodies. Likewise, to strengthen our minds, we must exercise our brains. To help us further explore this concept, we will now watch a 7-minute video which answers the question, what is the science of reading? While you watch this video, listen for what the narrator says with regard to the brains of proficient readers versus the brains of struggling readers, and the effect of explicit instruction or intervention on the brain.
Hello, my name is Holly Lane, and I'm the director of the University of Florida Literacy Institute. And the purpose of this presentation is to answer the question, what is the science of reading? One way that we can conceptualize reading is using the simple view of reading. This was first proposed by Goff and Tunmer in the 80s. And the idea here is that reading comprehension is the product of decoding and linguistic comprehension. What that means is it can be depicted as a mathematical formula where D times LC equals RC. D being decoding, LC being linguistic comprehension, and RC being reading comprehension. The reason it's depicted as a mathematical formula is that if either decoding or linguistic comprehension is weak, the effect is multiplied. That is, you can never have better reading comprehension than the level of development of your decoding or linguistic comprehension. Another way to illustrate the same basic idea is what Hollis Scarborough did. She created a metaphor where the various components within language comprehension and word recognition are thought of as strands that are woven together to create a rope, the rope being skilled reading. So as the language comprehension strands become more tightly woven, all of that becomes increasingly strategic. Similarly, when the word recognition strands become more tightly woven together or more fully developed, that means those skills are becoming increasingly automatic. When all of these skills are fully developed, then that's when skilled reading or fluent execution and coordination of the various strands occurs. So when we're considering the question, what is the science of reading, we're thinking of how we know what we know about what goes into high-quality reading instruction. Unfortunately, in our preparation as teachers, most, if not all of our knowledge probably came from education research. Education research focuses on pedagogy, including instructional methods and materials. We also, in education, study things like what do teachers need to know and what student outcomes can we expect. So this includes things like the National Reading Panel report that summarized for us the research in 5 key areas of reading. It includes things like multi-tiered systems of support, intervention methods, ways that we can monitor student progress, and then some of the important summaries of research like the IES practice guides. However, education research is only one piece of the puzzle. To get a more complete picture, we have to also look to other fields. Research in psychology should also inform our reading instruction. This psychology can include developmental psychology and cognitive psychology. This refers to the study of thinking and learning. This includes the study of mental processes such as memory, attention, perception, and problem solving. So, this is where we get information about things like the development of knowledge networks, how things are stored in memory, the kinds of practice that promote learning, such as blocked practice versus interleaved practice, and also how we organize and retrieve information. All of this helps us understand how people learn. Understanding how people learn helps us understand more about how to teach. But again, there's more. Linguistics is the study of language and its structure. This includes the study of various language structures, including semantics, syntax, morphology, phonology, phonetics, and so on. All of these are important in reading, and having an understanding of the findings from linguistics research helps us understand what we need to teach and how we need to sequence that instruction. In other words, what prerequisite knowledge and skills are necessary for new knowledge and skills to build on. This can include things like how articulatory gestures can promote phonemic awareness, how instruction in syntax can contribute to reading comprehension, how about oral language development or decoding or morphology development? How do those things contribute to reading development? The last piece of this science of reading puzzle is neuroscience. Neuroscience is the study of the structure and function of the human brain. This is a field that has really exploded over the last couple of decades. And in relation to reading, we understand much more about how the brain works, which areas are activated in skilled and unskilled readers, and how reading instruction can change neural activation patterns and even brain structure. Neuroscience helps us understand what parts of the brain are involved in different reading activities, how the brains of normal readers look different from the brains of struggling readers or students with dyslexia, and how things change as students get the proper intervention. The impact of neuroscience on our reading instruction is a pretty distant connection, but it does help us understand a little bit more about what's going on, and it should contribute to our understanding of why we are doing things in reading. Understanding how students learn, what they need to learn, and what happens when we teach them in different ways is really necessary if we want to give kids the best possible opportunity to become proficient readers. The findings from all of these fields helps us understand what we should be teaching, when we should be teaching it, and how it should be taught.
Please pause the video and do a quick 2-minute status check by responding to the questions on the screen. When you are finished discussing, please resume the video. Please pause the video here and have a 3-minute discussion in which you respond to these questions. After the discussion, please resume the video. Now that we have learned that we can physically alter the brain in a positive way, let's look at one type of explicit instruction that we can use to encourage this brain development. While you watch this video on multisensory reading instruction, pay attention to what the instructor says about the structure of the multisensory instruction and think about how this kind of instruction could be used at various grade levels and with different content areas.
Okay, today I want to talk to you a little bit about what multisensory instruction is and what it is not, because there are some misconceptions about multisensory. So first of all, I think that the visual piece, incorporating the visual piece is kind of a no-brainer. You look at words and letters with your eyes, so you see. And the auditory piece, that's not really difficult either, because as you talk, you are actually hearing either the phoneme or the syllable or the morpheme, whatever it is, whatever level of language you're working with. But the part that I find that people really have the most difficulty with is that tactile and kinesthetic. So let's talk a little bit about kinesthetic. What does kinesthetic mean?
Movement.
Movement, exactly. Now, would you concur that this is movement?
Yes.
Okay, does it have anything to do with a phoneme?
No.
Does it have anything to do with a syllable type?
No.
How about a morphological piece?
No.
No, nothing. Okay, what does tactile mean?
Touch.
Touch. Okay, I'm touching this table. Does this have anything to do with a phoneme?
No.
How about a morpheme?
No.
How about a syllable type?
No.
Okay, so people have this idea, and even educators have this idea, that I'm doing multisensory instruction in my classroom because the children are getting up and they're moving around the room. They're moving their muscles, but those muscle movements that they're moving have nothing to do with a phoneme, a syllable type, or a morpheme. So when we talk about kinesthetic, we want to be very specific to those linguistic units of speech in our language. So for kinesthetic, if I go, what is the kinesthetic movement? My mouth. My mouth. What is the tactile if I go,
None.
do my lips touch? Sure they do. That's the tactile we're looking for in kinesthetic and tactile instruction. So that tactile piece, if I say po in the word polite, is there a tactile movement of my mouth when I say po? Sure. If I'm looking at the unit of speech, the stable syllable shun, is there a kinesthetic movement of my mouth when I say shun? Is there a tactile feeling in my mouth when I go shun? Yes, so that's what we want to capitalize on, is that kinesthetic movement and that tactile movement of the mouth, of the articulators. And then also, as we engage the student as they write, then we're engaging the motor movement of the hand for those linguistic units. And also, if we have them traced on the tabletop, then we're engaging that tactile. So when we talk about multisensory instruction, we want all those multiple pathways engaged simultaneously at the same time. Not that we do a visual activity in the morning and we're going to do an auditory activity in the afternoon and then we're going to do some kinesthetic thing. We want all of those pathways engaged simultaneously. So if the student is saying, they're engaging the mouth, we could have them trace it on the table. Is that visual if we have them trace it? If we have them repeat the sound and go, are we engaging the kinesthetic movement of the mouth
Yes.
and the hand. So we've got visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile all at the same time.
Please pause the video at this point and discuss the 2 questions on the screen. After you are finished, please resume the video. Let's look at how we can apply multisensory instruction to a task that spans all grade levels, the acquisition of new vocabulary. In order to do this, we will use a visual to guide our thinking. In this example, students will be presented with a new vocabulary word. The word will be displayed to the students and read aloud. Students will write the word, its definition, and draw a picture to represent the word. Students will look at the word and the pictures they drew. Students will hear and say the word and its definition. Notice that while movement and touch are not on the triangle, activities that focus on these sensory modes could easily be added. In this example, we have pulled in movement and touch. Students see and hear the vocabulary word along with its definition. Students can make the word using letter tiles or cubes or by writing the word on their desks with their finger. They will say the letters and the word as they write it on their desks. They will say a sentence that uses the word logically. They can also act out the meaning of the word. It is important to note that vision and hearing are typically the most widely used sensory modes. Also, some activities may involve more than one sensory mode at a time. Pause the video and take a few minutes to discuss activities that focus on the concept in the triangle and incorporate at least 3 sensory modes that appear on the triangle. Feel free to add in the other modes as well or to change the concept. If you are working in smaller groups during this discussion, feel free to take a little time at the end to share before resuming the video. This brings us to the end of this video presentation. Please pause the video at this time and have a discussion with your group where you respond to the question on the screen. If it helps, think about something that you recently taught. Draw the sensory triangle and come up with 3 sensory-rich activities that you could have used simultaneously with your students to have a positive impact on their learning. Please feel free to take up to about 10 minutes to discuss. Thank you for your time today. This concludes our video presentation on the science of reading. If you would like to learn more, please speak to your building principal.